Sean, an aspiring film writer. He's written many projects, but tends not to finish them. I mean, some of them are finished, but a lot of them he, starts writing other things, and maybe he wants to change it, and then sometimes he just drops them and never finishes them at all. He was exposed to too many whiny comments coming from the IWC and the internet comic book community, along with the Star Wars community. He is the Incredible Bitch.
Yo, me in the future, when I realized that I used that intro on this video rather than a video about a potential Hawk movie that could come in the future, or maybe if I went back and looked at that Hawk movie, I don't know, but I just did something that I don't know if I should have. Your Monster is a 2024 film by director Caroline Lindy, and it stars Melissa Barrera. In the film, she plays an actress whose boyfriend dumps her while she is in the hospital battling cancer. But her boyfriend is a playwright who offered her the part in his play that he is going to be putting on, and she really wants this part in this play. All of this happens while Laura, Melissa's character, meets a character played by Tommy Dewey, who we only refer to in this film as Monster. And on comes a budding romance between Laura and Monster. And that's really all that I'm going to get into without getting into too many spoilers here. This is going to be another non-spoiler review. Heads up, I had not heard of this film before I went to go see it today. I was not familiar with it. I didn't know that this film was coming out. I didn't see any trailers, nothing like that. Hadn't heard anything about this film. And when I sat down to watch it, I didn't know what to expect going into it, but I think I got something out of it that was pretty surprising. But before we start breaking down this film too deep, we're going to do this like we do it every single time here. And we're going to get into some of the good, we're going to get into some of the bad, and then we're going to get into some of these stats, my guy. And we're going to start with some of the good. The acting in this film is pretty good for what it is. Honestly, like everybody who is in this film, the performances that you get out of them are, pretty good for what they're supposed to be. Melissa Barrera is who I've only seen her play serious and semi-serious characters. I'd only seen her in the Scream films. I'd seen her in The Height. I'd seen her in Abigail. I'm sure I'd seen her in a few other things I can't think of at the moment. But I'd only seen her do these serious and semi-serious roles. So seeing her step into a role that is more comedic was refreshing. And honestly, she played the role really well. I mean, she is hilarious throughout this film. From the very beginning of the film, you can see her and it's okay, I get what we're in for. And, she's pretty funny throughout the thing. In fact, a lot of the jokes land in this film. It's a pretty funny film. Not every joke lands, but as far as bad and averages goes, this film is on the good side of that. This is in the green with bad and averages as far as jokes go. I feel like I talk about pacing a lot in certain films because I feel like a lot of films, especially when films have problems, usually pacing is one of the biggest problems with most films. Even good films that I enjoy a lot, usually have at least a little bit of pacing issues. But this film, in my opinion, I didn't feel any pacing problems with it. I mean, it flowed from stride to stride as it should have. Though it wasn't all sunshines and lollipops or whatever, the film has its fair share of problems. There are a few storylines and subplots in this film that honestly are there and they don't necessarily need to be there. And by the time that they're fully introduced and fully explored, it doesn't really add or take away anything from the film. It's kind of just there just to be there. I'm not going to say exactly what the subplot that I'm thinking of is when I'm talking about that. But, there's a subplot or two in this film that I'm we could have did away with that, really, honestly. It didn't add too much to the film. Or if we were going to have that, I wish it would have been fleshed out a little bit more so we could have felt the full impact of that. The antagonist character in this film, he's not very antagonistic all the time. I mean, like, of course he does some, like, really, like, crappy things, and you see this, and you're full-heartedly on the protagonist side, but at the same time, you're kind of looking like, but, like, honestly, the main thing is just that this guy is kind of generic. He's generic as a bad guy, he just does these generic things that will make the character a bad guy, and you're like, yeah, that's bad, but, like, there's really not much else to that. There's no depth, and I'm not saying that, like, every bad guy character needs to have depth. I mean, we love tons of Marvel movies, and the bad guys don't have a whole ton of depth, but, I mean, it's a point that you gotta knock from it when the villain of your film just doesn't have that much going on about them, except for, like, they're just this bad person. And speaking of Marvel films and their problems, this film has that same thing that a lot of Marvel films have, where it's like we get a serious moment, right? And they don't really want to let it breathe completely. They want to add some levity in there and throw a joke in there to rinse that taste of sadness or tension out of your mouth. And it's like, no, let that sit with us. Let that fester a little bit and grow, but, like, they snatch it away from you rather quickly after you get that moment. But ultimately, those are, like, my main problems with the film. Other than that, like, there's really not a whole lot that I can knock this film for. There are, like, a few line deliveries and moments in the film that are, like, kind of sitcom-y. And you'll probably know when you see the film, you're going to be thinking the same thing. Like, there's a scene where a character is, like, crying and, a few reactions, and it's kind of sitcom-y, and I didn't mind it, but it is. It's kind of like Disney Channel reactions. Again, they make it work, but that's a thing in this film, though. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this thing. It's not a whole lot where I can just, like, go on for hours and hours or, minutes on end talking about this film. I only got so much to say. It's not that long a film. It's only like an hour 45 and it breezes by. So it's a nice little fun watch. Turn on like a Saturday night or whatever. Have a fun time, whatever. But with that, we're going to start breaking this thing down into its grades. And for a casual movie-going audience, we are going to give Your Monster an A-. For movie fans, we're going to give Your Monster a B+. And critics, we're going to give Your Monster a B-. When you're asking me about Your Monster, I'm going to say that this is one that you can go ahead and see in theaters. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Your Monster. Let me know if you guys seen the movie, or once you get to see the movie, how did you feel about the movie? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? I don't know. Tell me something. Get in those comments, let me know. There are a lot of films that I'm sitting here and I keep telling myself that, like, I want to do some non-spoiler reviews. Haven't done any of those yet. Don't know if I'm going to do them. I don't know, man. Dude, I don't know. I'm swamped. But as far as this video goes, dude, I don't have anything else to say, so I will see you guys next time. Later.